Hi everyone, my name is Morgan Carter. I am completing this elementary education degree through UNCW, of course, as a distance learner, and I live in Warren County, North Carolina. But for my field experience placement, I have been completing it in Vance County. So this particular semester, I was at Carver Elementary School, located at 987 Carver School Road in Henderson, North Carolina, 27537. This semester, I was placed in a second grade classroom where I typically completed hours on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays between 9 and 11:30 a.m. I realize this is the most professional picture, but it's the only one I had about what I wore generally to teach. Throughout the semester, I was under the partnership teacher named Patricia Harris, and I must say she was absolutely wonderful. We had a quite different teaching approach, but I ultimately I learned a lot, and I think some of the methods that she used in her class would be something I would definitely use. But more specifically, I observed subjects mostly in the reading and language arts category. A lot of their morning work consists of like a vocabulary grammar booster, and then we proceeded into a reading comprehension technique where most of the class read together, or either it was teacher led, and then they were asked to either compare and contrast stories, indicate the main idea, things of that nature. So it was really neat to see how she utilized the resources she had within the room and incorporated them right into a standard to ensure the students are mastering it. Although I didn't get to see many other subject lines because I was there only in the mornings, but she did integrate a little bit of science in one day, which made my heart happy. Science is my favorite. Uh, but she was able to incorporate a science-related topic into a writing assignment, which I personally thought was just wonderful. The kids really enjoyed it too, so I think that was a double win. Okay, as far as the student demographics in the room, we had majority females. It was 11 to 8, which to me is impressive. Um, None of the students in our class had an IEPs, and there's 3 students that are tested out, but they're English as a second language type students. The class was predominantly African American, which isn't very uncommon here, with a few Hispanics and only 1 Caucasian. Classroom management systems. Okay, for her classroom rules are very kind of vague, but she also reiterates daily what she expects from the kids, but she also expresses them in a way that's very fair. I think that's the most important part, because she does reciprocate the respect that she demands from them. But if not, they are also very, very, very clear about what will follow if they do not follow the rules. So some of those are treat others as you want to be treated, follow directions the first time given, and raise your hand to speak. All these things create a really well organized room for her, but it also teaches her students like character and responsibility for their actions. As far as the general classroom procedure, throughout the time that I was there, they typically do morning work at 9 a.m. and it typically starts out, like I said before, with vocabulary and grammar. So they'll utilize their spelling words in various ways. Sometimes they do it online with a Spelling City gaming system on the computer where the students chime in quarterly to tell the student that's typing how to spell the word, or sometimes they'll do it writing it on whiteboards and raising them up to be seen by the teacher. And other times they'll just simply apply them into a story, or my favorite, act them out. So they would get up in front of the class and just act out their spelling word so their classmates could guess what it is. And I'm also taking a drama integration or arts integration class within this semester. So that to me was an awesome way to connect what they're doing to art integration without even realizing it. And then from 9:30 to 10:45, they move into English language arts related centers. There's a group on the computer system which is practicing the iReady program on reading. There can be a variety of like stories they read. Sometimes they read AR books and taking the test, that's accelerated reader. So I think that's wonderful. And they also have a system where these kids are rewarded for the amount of points that they receive. Around 10:50 they take a bathroom break and they come back in at 11 to 11:25, and usually they take part in a writing assignment here. Sometimes it could be in their journal or either on a worksheet that they intend to put up in the hallway. But sometimes she varies how she does this. It's often free writing, other times it's, guided, things of that nature, which I think the kids really enjoy, and not to mention they're awesome at it. And then 11:30, it was time for them to go to lunch, so it was perfect time for me to kind of duck out so I can get back here to Littleton in work in time. So it really worked out. Now we move to the classroom management system. I personally think this could be used a little more intensely than she does, or appeared to. It seemed as if she used it for an increased way of parent communication, which is great, don't get me wrong. But the system also has the ability to keep up attendance and award and deduct behavior points that are also visible for parents. I'm not real sure if she does that. She didn't say much about it any of the time I was there, but she did interact with parents using the messaging app through ClassDojo, which really, to me, it strengthens the relationship there, and that's really, really important. As far as individualized behavior management, as I said before, her rules are very strict, and the students are very aware of it. But if they fail to do so, or if they fail to follow directions, specifically during a center, they were simply asked to remove from themselves from the group and work independently to complete their assignments. They absolutely hated that, so they really did work hard to make sure they stayed within the group by following directions. She had several forms of specifically designed instruction, and I think my favorite was a time warning during the transitions. She would give them a 2-minute countdown before the buzzer was about to go off, and then when the time was up, they heard the buzzer themselves and proceeded to the next objective without her really having to raise a hand, which to me is awesome. Okay, as far as she kind of reiterates that students have full responsibility for their actions. So she provides the student with as like a self-advocate. She, I think one thing that I really like, because I am ADHD, and in the classroom, she gives students the way to utilize their energy in a positive way. So she would say, stand and talk to your neighbor, about the question that we just did, or raise your hand if the person in front of you in line is silent and straight. All these things are giving students the power to, not only rate themselves, but give others a kind of an insight on what she expects and to make sure that they're holding their responsibility. Another time she would have the students write in their journal, as mentioned before, and I personally was blown away at these students' ability to write and things of that nature. Teaching strategies. As mentioned before, in the mornings they start with either a vocab or grammar thing, and then they proceed into a reading. And again, the teacher would ask the students to underline the main idea of a certain paragraph or talk to their neighbor about it. They also completed choral responses that were initiated by the teacher in order to check for their understanding and make sure they're prepared to move forward. The centers, as mentioned again, they would be a little more varied throughout the day, but they typically had the same structure. There was one teacher-led group nearly every day. There was an iReady reading group. Sometimes they could put their spelling words in alphabetical order and then practice spelling city on the app, on the iPads. Another time they would do an iReady reading comprehension practice assignment. They could do compare and contrast on 2 group stories for the morning work. And again, the AR reading test. I almost was able to check off everything on my list, but I think it goes back again to one of my favorite things is how organized her classrooms are. Students are very familiar with what she expects, how the place is set up, everything of that nature, and I think that's very important but it's also really impressive coming from a second grade class. Like these students are so well thought out and understand the system so well that they don't have a problem cooperating. Okay, from a target behavior overview, I decided to do two different students because there really wasn't one student that I felt that is if I could do different types of observations with. So the first student was off task. He was looking at others, staring into space, doodling on his paper, things like that. So I thought it would be interested to offer a replacement behavior if I was ever given the chance to possibly reduce the bulk of the assignment. Maybe they could be broken down into smaller portions so it's not so overwhelming, leaving him with enough time to wander. Student 2, I think it was important for him that he was engaged in the assignment. I often felt that he was a little bored, causing him to get off task. So I thought it would be neat to look at the duration of time that he spent off task. And I think it would be interesting for him to have a more engaging assignment. And that's kind of hard when you have a class like this, but he does have ADHD too. So I think if there was something he was a little more interested in, none of this would be a problem. Okay, as an intervention plan, I thought self-monitoring, rearranging the classroom seats, and increased adult supervision could be an intervention for student number 1. But I also thought that an alternative seat in the room could form a self-monitoring and reduce the problem behavior. For student 2, a self-monitoring system would also seem efficient for him, but it might be neat to break the assignment into smaller ones or manageable chunks to be helpful. As a replacement behavior, students will be responsible for varied assignments to better spark his interest. So giving him a choice in the matter which accomplishes the same goal might help. Okay. Prior to this experience, I have encountered students with autism. But at first, with this semester, I was a little bit concerned about it because there really wasn't any that possessed a obvious disability. But I soon learned that some were ADHD, so they required a little extra assistance. In conclusion, to a certain extent, inclusion, is very important, in my opinion, at this point because students are able to use their strengths to balance out the weaknesses around them. So, with that being said, I have seen how this partnership teacher really utilizes that, and it's guided me into becoming a better educator. When it comes to students with disabilities in a general classroom, the question that still stands out to me is how to create and enforce slightly different requirements and consequences to accommodate their personal needs. Practices and materials I plan to incorporate in the future. Again, I think it's so important for her to have the well-organized classroom, and the students typically understand the routines of the class, and I think that ultimately benefits them because they know what to expect and how to mentally and physically prepare for what's coming next. I think that helps them academically. Hope you enjoyed. Thank you.